It's time for Agriculture, presented by Turkana Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Mark Scherzer.
Virtually every morning, when I open the gate to descend to the path around the pond, on my way to feed Possum, the sow, I cause a stir of sorts. Possum hears the sound of the latch opening and the gate squeaking and stirs herself to come out for breakfast. The other domestic livestock react similarly. The chickens run toward me for the cracked corn I spread in their yard as soon as they hear the door slide open. The sheep, if they perceive my movement toward the barn, return from grazing in the pasture to gather at the barn door and ready themselves for the charge of the light brigade, the race to their morning grain treat. The wild cohabitants of my space are similarly attentive to my movements, but respond differently. When I open that same gate to head toward Possum, rabbits and squirrels dash for cover. Frogs on the margin of the pond jump in the water. And most mornings for the last few months, I've gotten to witness the elegant takeoff of a great blue heron that seems to spend every morning hunting for the fish that have multiplied in the pond. The heron is an odd creature. It appears fragile and delicate, its body resting on long spindly legs, and its wings, while large, not appearing substantial enough to propel its body. Even though it instantly reacts to the sound of my arrival by leaving, it seems to move with a slow deliberation, its huge wings flapping languorously. It's the sort of diametrical opposite of a hummingbird. But I don't think it's really delicate. Its long, skinny beak must be a powerful weapon against its chosen prey. I wouldn't want to tangle with it. Observing its departure one morning this week, my visiting friend Steve speculated on how it must be nearly impossible for such a delicate bird to get through the winter. I told him I didn't have that impression. They seem quite cold-hardy, and I think when the pond freezes, such birds hang out at marshy margins like those along the Hudson that don't fully freeze, and where they can pick off fish in the shallow waters. I'm not sure if I'd call the heron a visitor anymore. It's in the same place so regularly every morning that I'd have to say the pond has become part of its territory. The boundary lines on my property deed are not necessarily the ones observed by the animals I share the neighborhood with. The difference between visitor and resident can be a kind of blurry one, and the ambiguity extends well beyond the great blue heron. A few weeks ago, when Eric's dog Lily was here for the week, she, as usual, accompanied me out to morning chores. She immediately started barking and running at the screen porch. I first assumed she was protecting us from a delivery person. When I saw no truck in the driveway, I then assumed she was responding to a skunk, since skunks sometimes have burrowed under the porch. But when she kept running at the screen itself and barking, I investigated further. There, inside the porch, I found perched on the rattan side table a barred owl. I knew there was such a creature in the neighborhood. This summer, I asked my visiting brother-in-law, Doug, an avid birder, what the weird shriek, which I found so unsettling after nightfall, was. When he said it was a barred owl call, it made sense to me, as I had times in the past seen that remarkable-looking bird on telephone lines along the side of the road. When I showed the picture of it to a neighbor, he said, "I know that owl. It's always hanging out in a tree by my pond, where it hunts." He thought of it as a resident of his property. From what I've been reading, the barred owl claims rather large territory. It may well principally nest next to my neighbor's pond, but probably regards my property as its own territory as well. They seem to claim territories as large as 800 acres, which would easily encompass my house, the house of this neighbor down the street, and the telephone lines over on Church Avenue where I've seen it roosting before. How it decided to fly through the screen of my screen porch is a bit of a mystery. I assume it saw a rodent or some other prey on the north side of the porch while it was roosted just to the south, and that something about the light at that moment made the screen invisible to it. It swooped in through a spot where the screen was already torn. Once inside, it couldn't figure out how to get back out. So the farm is part of this barred owl's territory. It's part of the great blue heron's territory, and it's clearly part of Lily's territory, as she views it as her duty to guard it against any intruders. To say any of these creatures are simply visitors would not, to my mind, really be accurate. In some sense, the blurring of the line between resident and visitor is perfectly appropriate, as the farm's human denizens are of equally mixed status. Of course, it's been clear for months that Eric resides here. Not only does he have his own desk, dresser drawers, and closet space, but has marked the space as his, to my delight and that of my friends and family who feel the house needed a fresh new look, by reorganizing and redecorating. He's not here every day, but it is nonetheless his home. My friend Steve has been contemplating moving in as a roommate, and he too has an ongoing presence in the form of toothbrush, pillows, and clothing. If you asked him, resident or visitor, I think his response would be undecided, but I know the ongoing presence of his stuff means that he at least feels at home here, and it makes me happy. And looking around at various kitchen items, booze, shoes and outerwear, headphones and other electronics, he is not alone. It warms my heart to have friends like Paul, Tom, Perry, and Matt, who feel at home here as well.
Agriculture is underwritten by Turkana Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.